Ladies and gentlemen, the launch of Battlefield 5 is getting closer and closer. While many of us are still suffering withdrawal symptoms since the alpha ended, there is another opportunity to play the game before the main launch come October. That of course being the beta, where DICE will allow everyone to get a hands-on look at the game. From the blog posts and from hints from DICE and EA employees, we know that the beta will be occurring in early September, which is now just a month away. Typically with Battlefield games, the beta showcases a different map than the alpha with more fleshed out features, and is overall meant to be a stress test for the entire build to smooth out the rough patches before launch. Very rarely do developers not introduce new features for testing in betas, so here's the question I want to take a look at in this video. What features need to be in the beta for us to test? While the term need can be a bit subjective, what I mean is, what information are we missing currently to give us an understanding of how the game will function as a whole? Key features were not included in the alpha that we know will be in the game, but as it stands are unknown as to how they function or how they will affect the overall game meta. The first feature I feel needs to be in the beta is also the one that most people are already expecting, a new map. Allowing access to a new map will give us a better understanding of the general direction that DICE is heading in as far as level design is concerned. Will we see a more linear map where there are clearly defined lanes of movement and the main line of conflict being the middle objective? Think Operation Lockers from Battlefield 4, Argonne Force in BF1, and Narvik from the alpha. Another map design that was heavily present in Battlefield 1 was a circle of objectives with one central objective. A main downside to this style of map is the creation of a sort of no man's land at the central objective. So the majority of players consistently chase the other team around the map, leading to a stale, slow-paced, merry-go-round match. A prime example of this map style is Priesti Tahur. Regardless of what direction the map will take as far as design goes, it stands fairly likely that we will be experiencing a new battle in the beta. In fact, I would put money on the idea that we are very likely to see the map from the reveal trailer, which focused on a more rural environment with a giant bridge being the defining feature. Regardless, I am very interested to see how the different map will play, leading to interesting choices regarding playstyle and archetypes. Speaking of archetypes, the next feature that I think we really need to get more hands-on with is the new archetype system. This is a key shift in the franchise that greatly expands on the already established class structure. You will be able to specialize in a certain role, allowing for varied gameplay. During the alpha, only one class, the support, had access to more than one archetype, where one was more of a mobile player with the Bren light machine gun, and the other archetype was a very defensive build with the MG34. I believe that the archetype system will completely shake up the already established idea that recons are for long range, assault for close quarters, and medics and supports fall somewhere in between. What has been described is the ability to carve out your own niche, and in order for us to fully appreciate what that entails and how it will change the game, we need to get hands-on experience with the system. Weapons may not be restricted to specific classes nearly as much as they have been, and gadgets may span classes as well. I'm personally extremely excited to see what direction this implementation will take the game. My chief complaint with Battlefield 1 was how restrictive the class system really was. My favorite loadout in Battlefield 4 was recon with suppressed carbine, spawn beacon, and a tugs. I would run around the enemy, set up a spawn point, and flank them to disrupt their movements. Or I could allow an engineer to be more effective at long-range engagements by grabbing a DMR for maps like Silk Road or Golmud Railway. I really hope that the archetype system really, truly lets us carve out our own playstyles instead of locking them in. The next feature I truly feel that we need to see is the perk system / progression tree. I've seen mixed statements regarding weapon customization. Originally, they were saying that you would be able to have different attachments on your gun between 5 and 7 attachment points. Other statements have said that attachments are tied into the progression tree, and how you progress through the branches will dictate what attachments that weapon has. I'm not 100% certain on how the system actually works now, and this is the primary reason why I think it is vital that we see this system before launch. That way, DICE can immediately recognize if there are patterns that need to be dealt with, attachments that need balancing, and give players a better understanding of how their main tool will function at launch, their guns. Speaking of guns, I think that we really need to see more weapons available in the beta. We had access to a few in the alpha, but I really think giving us access to more will help understand how each class will play. Allowing for players to experiment with their attachments and loadouts will give the community as a whole a much better understanding to the mechanics behind the game. This would also serve as a great starting point for a community-wide discussion regarding what has changed from past Battlefields, like the new recoil system, to what has stayed the same. An increase in knowledge in the player base is beneficial to all, the players and the developers, as now everyone will be able to make informed discussions and decisions regarding balance. On the topic of balance, I was actually really surprised to hear that the V1 rocket was already receiving nerfs. Personally, I felt that it was far too early to make those calls due to the main fact that it was the only reinforcement that the majority of players saw. Yes, the Storm Tiger and Churchill Crocodile were present, but not every player wanted to stop what they were doing and switch to driving a tank. Another reason why I think the usage rate of the V1 was so damn high was that it looked freaking awesome. The sound design was phenomenal as well, and everyone wanted to get that magical multi-kill from landing a rocket on a horde of enemies. What we really need before balancing the reinforcements is made is a deeper look into the squad call-in system as a whole. Let us see what tools we will have on the battlefield. Players will then quickly work out what has the best opportunity costs and primarily stick to those call-ins. From there, adjustments can then be made to the cost of the call-ins. But nerfing the V1 already is like selling your entire stock portfolio because one stake dropped a few dollars. Let's be a little less trigger happy on the nerfs, please. The last point that I want to hit on isn't actually a feature that we will get in the beta, but I feel it is absolutely necessary to discuss as early as possible. So far, when asked about how servers will be handled in Battlefield 5, we've been given the same answer. We just aren't ready to talk about it yet. I understand why DICE is saying this, but in order to ensure a smooth transition to Battlefield 5, this discussion needs to happen. Regardless of what decisions are going to actually be implementing, at least talk with the community owners, event organizers, competitive teams, and platoons both big and small. The transition from third-party hosted servers in past Battlefields to the proprietary servers in Battlefield 1 caused many smaller communities to die out. Larger communities were left without their own homes for the first month after the launch of BF1. Features were then implemented that directly harmed the mission of many communities, and this all stemmed from a lack of communication about the intent behind the servers. Regardless of whether you are for or against privately owned and managed servers in Battlefield, I think we can all agree that this discussion needs to happen. And it needs to happen before the launch of the game, which is exactly the reason why I'm mentioning it in this video. Alright, I think this is a good place to stop. I'm looking forward to seeing what DICE has in store for us come the beta, and I cannot wait to get my hands on the game again. I honestly believe that Battlefield 5 has the potential to be the best game in the franchise. Is there something that I missed that you think really needs to be in the beta? Let me know in the comments below. My name is Shadox, and I hope to see you on the battlefield.